Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Before I get into today's video, just a little reminder that I do have my Halloween giveaway of a bunch of books for spooky season up on my Instagram right now. It'll be running through next Wednesday, October 5th. So if you're interested in that, please check out my Instagram at Prynne for all of those details. Now today, I am ready to talk about Cunning Folk by Adam Nevill. I absolutely adore this book cover. I was very excited about this. This is, I believe, the first full-length novel that Adam Nevill has released through his own independent publishing company, which I believe is called Ritual Limited. Yes, it is. Obviously in reference to his best-selling novel, The Ritual, which was turned into a film. It's really great. Adam Nevill is one of those authors that is very hit or miss from me. I absolutely adore books like No One Gets Out Alive. I really liked Last Days. The first half of The Ritual I thought was incredible. And then he also has some stuff that really just didn't work for me, like The Reddening. And yet, I keep reading Adam Nevill stuff because even in books like The Reddening, there are these moments of just pure terror and creative writing and folk horror that I think makes Adam Nevill such a fun and intriguing and unique writer. Adam Nevill is primarily known for his folk horror as well as this strange kind of cosmic horror that he does. A lot of the creatures in his stories are kind of these otherworldly, unknown, all-powerful entities that humans don't understand. However, when you read his novels, because they're so rooted in this small town folky environment, it's really difficult to feel like it's traditional cosmic horror. So I do really very much enjoy reading Adam Nevill's work, and I was very excited to read this. This is the story about a family who moves in to a new house in the countryside of England, where they only have two neighbors for some reason. That part didn't really make sense to me, but their houses are somewhat conjoined, and they are doing extensive renovations on the house, which is pissing off the neighbors next door, who may or may not be up to some shady, crazy, magical things. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to read the inside flap of the book, because I'm pretty sure I just kind of summed it up for you. I will say the cover, once you read the book, this cover makes so much sense, and I love this cover. I think this is brilliant. It looks like such a stunning painting, and I love the eyes of the boar. But this book is going to be very difficult for me to review. So I'm going to start off by saying this is a 4-star read for me. I did, at the core, objectively like what this book did. Subjectively, I have a lot of issues with it, if that makes sense. I think the narrative is really interesting. I think the messages in it are really interesting. I think it's a really fun kind of cheeky way to poke fun at the fact that a lot of people have crappy neighbors, and the neighbors in both instances are pretty terrible people to one another, and then obviously it gets into this kind of dark folk, magical, culty weirdness. Very strong folk horror. The problem with me is I think this book could have been spectacular if Adam Nevill worked with a separate editor. Just because there were so many times that this book felt overly descriptive and really wordy and repetitive and redundant, and Adam Nevill is very much about visuals, and a lot of times what makes his books scary is that he gives way too much details on some of the more disturbing imagery in his stories. And for me, because this novel wasn't as scary as any of the other things that I have read from him, it just didn't work for me. It was too overly descriptive for me to not be reading something kind of gross and uncomfortable and appalling. Now, granted, there are some kind of gross and uncomfortable and appalling things in this novel, but they don't hit as hard the way that Adam Nevill's other works do. Trigger warning, animal cruelty in this, trigger warning. If you are a parent with small children, this book is going to kind of have what I like to call the Pet Sematary effect on you. This is a book that I believe if I was a parent, I would absolutely be terrified by this novel. But I'm not. I don't have kids. So to me, I can see where there are things in this book that are really unsettling and unnerving and very upsetting, and they were for me to read, but I feel like had I been a parent, I would have almost maybe not been able to finish the book at certain points. That being said, I am a dog owner, and the dog scene really did upset me, which is another reason that this can't be a 5-star read for me. I really don't like when authors play upon harming of animals. There's definitely a lot of animal harm in this. However, that type of harm is used to build up the characters in the novel. It is to show the extent of evil and depravity of certain characters. It is effective. It does make you see how deranged certain characters are in this story. And it's not just there for shock value. It is very much there to show the type of evil that we are dealing with. So from that perspective, I 100% understand why Adam Nevill went that way. And in his afterword, he does talk about how it was some of the hardest things he's ever had to put to paper, for he is a parent himself. I'm assuming he's a dog owner himself as well because of the way he wrote about it. It's not super terrible. Like, I've definitely read much worse. And it's more implications than actually on screen. Well, for the dog at least. But it is definitely difficult to read. I think one of my problems with this story is, again, it was definitely too wordy. It could have been the exact same story, but maybe 50 pages less. Adam Nevill, again, his writing style does feel very rambling and long, so it took me a while to read this because I would have to really slowly digest everything that he was saying. I couldn't just, like, speed read it because a lot of the story wasn't necessarily the plot, but it was like descents into madness and these kind of crazy dream sequences and just visuals that were being described. I felt it went on a little bit too long, but at the same time, it worked. Like, I really did enjoy this story. I really do like Adam Nevill's writing. This one just definitely needed an editor, and I think it would have been a 5-star, or it would have been closer to a higher rating for me. I don't think I would have ever given it a 5-star with the whole dog and child thing. But I did like it. It is nowhere near as scary as anything else that I have read from Adam Nevill. I feel like every Adam Nevill story always has one scene where you're just like, oh my god, like really like anxious and just filled with dread. The reddening definitely has that. The first half of The Ritual has a ton of it. Even the second half of The Ritual has some scenes. Anytime characters are like alone in houses, I feel like you tend to get like that's like pivotal Adam Nevill horror right there. But this book was originally written to be a screenplay, and then because it's still kind of in screenplay limbo, Adam Nevill went and turned it into a full-length novel. And I think that might contribute to why there are so many just overt descriptions on what images he wanted seen, because I feel like he had like set designs in mind. And so it's really hard for me to talk about this because this wasn't a novel he technically intended to write. It was just him wanting to get this concept he had that might not ever actually realize on film onto paper so his fans could read it. So I do appreciate that. I did read somewhere that somebody was like, this felt kind of like a cliche haunted house story. Like, it didn't truly feel like an Adam Nevill story. And I don't know if I agree with that, but I will say it was definitely toned back for Adam Nevill horror. But I don't know if I would consider it a haunted house. I thought it was a really, really unique take on the idea of a haunted house because it isn't ghosts, right? It's real people. And granted, there are supernatural elements, and the folk horror is just very strong. Like, if you're a fan of The Wicker Man, like the original, not the Nick Cage, you will probably like this book. The pacing is very similar to The Wicker Man and like the kind of weird absurdities in it. The ending I thought was kind of weird, but I liked it. I liked it. Like, I didn't see this ending coming, and it's kind of funny in a way, just because it's like so ridiculous. But at the same time, it's really scary when you think about it. So I did actually really like where that went as well. My number one problem with this book, though, when it came to like characters and plot, is like these characters, and I don't know if it was like because of the supernatural forces at hand, but a lot of characters just did some really stupid, avoidable things. And yeah, I guess I could argue that it is like the supernatural elements probably taking over everything. But I was just kind of like, really? Like this is how you react? Like normal people don't act this way. And so I found it just a little hard to have a suspension of disbelief when certain characters made certain rash decisions, like at the drop of a hat. But again, there could be an explanation for it. I did think that all of the scenes in the woods were really creepy. I don't necessarily know if I would find them terrifying because I feel like Adam Nevill almost restrained himself because I know he can write way more depraved imagery, but it was creepy, it was cool, it was unique, and I really liked the juxtaposition between seeing what was happened through an adult's eyes versus seeing what was happening through a child's eyes. So we kind of get the same scene told from different perspectives, also at different times. And we're first introduced to something through a 4-year-old's eyes, and it's really jumbled and it doesn't quite make sense, and it's literally like a 4-year-old's mind trying to process like the craziness that she is seeing. And then we get it told through an adult's perspective, and it all kind of falls more and more into place. And I've never really seen that done before in a book, and I thought it was really, really well done because I was really confused by what the child was seeing, which I think just added to the effectiveness of that that storyline. I thought it was really, really interesting. And there's a lot of foreshadowing in this book too that you don't realize is foreshadowing until it all kind of comes back together. I thought that was really, really well done. But this is not one of those books that I felt like I could speed read. This kind of reminds me of The Terror by Dan Simmons. I do like that book, but it was really difficult for me to get through, and that's how I feel with this. There's a lot of patience needed, which isn't necessarily my cup of tea. And with Adam Nevill, I was able to read like Last Days and No One Gets Out Alive, which are both like over 400, maybe 500 pages in like 3 days. Like I really enjoyed reading those and I didn't really want to put it down. This one's about 300 pages and it took me like 3 times as long to read it as his other things, as his other works. So yes, if you are interested in folk horror, if you are a fan of Adam Nevill, I would say pick this up. This is probably not a good book to start with to get into Adam Nevill. I would still recommend No One Gets Out Alive, Last Days, or The Ritual to start with, but I did really love this. I know that his latest book is coming in my upcoming Nightworms package. I'm really stoked about that. So hopefully I will get that read within the next month or two as well. Really interested to see how his writing style is with that. Again, under his own publishing company. So really stoked on that. And I believe the cover is going to complement this cover, which is so cool. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. And if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah.